This is the newly revised residential listing agreement, Form RLA revised 1224. This is the 1224 version released mid-December 2024. Not much has changed. There are a few changes relating to concessions, but we'll go through. This will be an accelerated tutorial. It's a 19-page bundle. The first 2 pages are just the disclosure regarding real estate agency relationship. But then we get down to the actual listing agreement, and we'll date it. We'll put in our client's name, our brokerage name, the property address, the parcel number. Then we get to the listing terms. We must put a beginning and an ending date. If one or both of these is left blank, this form can become unenforceable or could be nullified by the seller. So make sure that these are both filled out and that period doesn't exceed 24 months, although I can't imagine anyone wanting to be stuck in a 2-year listing. Okay, listing price, we put that in here, pretty straightforward. Check the box if it fits one of these 2 molds, manufactured or probate. We get down to compensation, the fun part. Now, keep in mind, this is only for the seller's broker. The listing broker or the seller's broker does not collect commission on behalf of the buyer's agent or commission that they would have shared with the buyer's agent. That's the old way. It's ancient history. Now it's only what the seller's broker, aka listing agent, is going to be paid. So I put in 2.5% here. Now, one of the changes is they put in the word broker created. And this allows a broker to have their own compensation schedule, which they could have before. They just put in the word broker created for whatever reason. Now, keep in mind, you can't just make up something like, if X happens, then commissions Y. And if Y happens, commissions Z. It must be definitive. It must be a relatively fixed definitive number, or else that could create problems. So keep that in mind. Now down here, what happens if you're a listing agent and the buyer's unrepresented? I call those misfit buyers. You have a misfit buyer that refuses help. Well, guess what? Misfit buyers are needy. They don't have all the forms and they want explanation and they need this and they need that. So for that burden, you can charge the seller more. Additional compensation to seller's broker if buyers are unrepresented. I actually don't like this line, by the way. This incentivizes naughty behavior from listing agents. C.A.R. shouldn't put it in here, but I don't make the rules. I just do tutorials, so it's not up to me. If it was up to me, if it were my choice, this would be gone, but it's here. So, hey, we're going to ask for additional compensation from the seller if we have a misfit buyer. So we put in 2% or whatever you want, 1% or even $500 over here. Now keep in mind, it's not for dual agency. You are not a dual agent. If you're a dual agent, the buyer is represented and you must have a BRBC, a representation agreement with the buyer. It even says that right here, okay? If you represent the buyer, you must have a representation agreement, period. This is for unrepresented buyers only. I want to make that distinction. Very important. Continuation. Put 30 days or 90 days if you can, but at least 30 days. This protects you if this listing agreement expires and let's say a buyer walked through. Based on your marketing efforts, the buyer discovered it. They walked through while it was still listed. But then a week after expiration, they make an offer. All right. This protects you because you were involved in getting that buyer there in the first place. It protects you if this agreement expires and that buyer comes back. So put at least 30 days up to 90. And if the seller has baggage from their prior relationship with the last listing agent, well, you can put that in here. Maybe that former agent has a continuation period and you need to add something about it here. If not, leave it blank. Are there items that would otherwise be excluded from real property that need to be included, like personal property? You can put that here. This is just more informational to help you fill out the MLS. Are there excluded items? Maybe a heirloom chandelier that should convey because it's affixed to the premises, but you want to take it. You can enter that here. Leased items, self-explanatory. Keep a lookout for solar power systems as that's very popular, okay, for leased and liened items, okay? And if there's smart features, enter it. I mean, I often leave this blank unless there's something I really need to make note of, because I'm going to go through the MLS separately with the seller. And keep in mind, I'm going to create a PDF and have the seller initial it, not because it's legally binding or anything like that, but because I want the seller to look at my work. I want them to double check my work, to proofread my MLS listing and say, oh, actually there are 2 spaces, or there is RV parking, or there is something that needs to be excluded, the reverse osmosis system. So we instituted this policy at my brokerage a few years ago when there was a misunderstanding about how many parking spaces in a parking garage for a high-rise condo there were. So I recommend having the seller initial the MLS sheet just as basically a way to proofread your work and make sure that everything looks accurate. Will it be on the MLS? Write in the MLS here. Agents, leave this blank. World doesn't end. Okay, just letting you know. So we'll go through quickly. All right, now this is a new section. The seller's willingness to consider concessions. All right. Ultimately, even if this didn't exist, buyers are still going to make offers asking for a seller concession. So largely this is inconsequential. But because it's here, check both boxes, which gives you permission to at least indicate the seller's willing. Okay. I mean, again, this is inconsequential, but now that this is here, this is a new, let me drag this over here. See this red right here? This is all new, okay? The red indicates it's new. Just check both boxes and move right on. Leave this default that you're going to present all offers. This right here, check this box. F2, check this box. This allows your seller to get love letters from buyers, okay? So if a buyer includes a letter, unless your seller just is repulsed by the thought of reading a letter from a buyer, then check this box. Because if an offer comes with a buyer, why are you going to hold it from the seller? It's so silly. Just check the box and include the whole offer when you present to the seller. Okay, investigation reports. This whole area is nonsense, quite frankly. Okay, and the fact that this is checked right here from the get-go makes no logical sense whatsoever, because the NHD provider happens at the time of the purchase agreement, and this comes like this. Okay, this is silly, but I'm going to skip through here. Okay, because you can't ask this now. Maybe the seller wants to elect one. Great. Okay, they can check the box and they can order one. All right, fine. But the idea that the seller has to order an NHD before they even get an offer is ridiculous. They shouldn't have to do that. They can choose to, but they shouldn't have to. I'm not doing anything else here. I'm just going to scroll through. This is just how I would fill an offer out if I were doing it today for a client. Someone called me and said, please list my property right now. This is exactly what I would be doing. Okay. I'm scrolling through because I wouldn't be doing anything here. Entity seller, check this box and write in the entity name if it's an entity, and then write in the name of the legally authorized signer. It can't be, I see these signatures where the signer's, ABC Homes, and then it's written in cursive. Doesn't work. There must be a John or Jane Doe, an authorized individual that signs on behalf of the entity. That's what goes here. You're going to sign down here. I have a separate video, by the way, if there are multiple agents. Okay, just letting you know, that gets addressed down here. Whether there are multiple agents of the same company or 2 different brokerages, that gets addressed down here. I have a whole separate video on that. Okay, another form that doesn't need to be, this is 19 pages. This bundle is 19 pages. Come on. There needs to be some sort of consideration for simplicity and being succinct and brief, because what was the RP I did yesterday was 38 pages or something. It's like, come on, people. Okay, so multiple listing service addendum. I put in the date that I'm drafting it, and you know what? I don't do anything else. That's it. We sign. The end. I move on. Seller's advisory. Good measure, but so you're not filling anything out. You're just having your seller sign at the bottom. 2-page form. Compensation advisory. This is just CYA sort of advisories, stuff like that. Seller's going to sign. Potential for dual agency. Both of you sign. Fair housing. You're going to have your client sign the second page. Okay. And consumer privacy. And we're at the end of it. That's it. 19 pages. New listing agreement. Hope you found it helpful. Thanks for watching.